share your
Sorry, can you hear my mother in the background? Do I need to? Okay, sorry, she's on the phone in the background. I just didn't, I wanted to make sure.
We understand. Yes, you're in good shape.
Okay, let me just share
Can
my.
the interpreter ask a question? For the two of you and for Jennifer, do you want me to spotlight the interpreter so that it's clear on the recording later, or not necessary? She said, no, we'll be fine.
Okay.
I don't need to spotlight the interpreter for Jennifer.
Okay.
Okay. So can everyone see my screen, the presentation?
Yep.
Okay. My project presentation is titled A Walk on the Beach / Simple Snack in Animal Crossing Animation. What my project is it's a simple 3D animation that I made in the animation, well, the 3D modeling software, Autodesk Maya. And it's using the art style of the game Animal Crossing New Horizons to create an animation that focuses on character joint movement and locomotion with a unique character that I designed myself. So this is kind of the process of my project, since it's a artistic creation. I started by, and this is what each of my slides is going to be focusing on. First, I started with the character design and the design of like the props. Then I created the 3D models for all of my props. And after all of those were created, I storyboarded the animation so I knew what I would need to do for the animation. And then after that, I used Maya again to animate the character. And then after I was done animating, I still had the process of lighting and rendering, which was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be, actually. So the first step is character design. So since I am basing this off of a pre-existing game, I used I looked at all of the existing characters within the game. So if you look at the bottom right corner, you'll see the kind of Frankenstein creation I've got, which is a combination of two different characters that exist in the game already, that I kind of used as a template in my design, because a lot of the characters in Animal Crossing are animals. And so for my character, since I wanted it to be unique, I chose a animal species that is not present within the game, which is, I chose a bat. But since I wanted to keep the style, I kind of took, parts of the other animal species that would look the most like a bat and kind of stitched them together for like a template. And then I also created a fruit item that didn't exist in the game, but I also wanted it to make sense for something a bat would eat. So I chose a papaya, which is actually, I researched into what fruit bats eat, and I decided a papaya would be kind of a, usable fruit that I could model. So after I had the character kind of designed, I went into Maya and I 3D modeled it. So this was the longest part of the process. And I ended up creating 3 different assets. There's the character asset, and then you'll see at the bottom of my screen, there's the palm tree with the fruits on it. The tree itself is one object, and then the fruits are a secondary object. This process it's very interesting, I guess. I have experience with 3D modeling. And so I was able to, in some cases, I used a lot of different 3D primitives, which is what you start out with. You start out with like a cube or a sphere, and then you can like extrude sides, faces of it in order to make a different object from it. And so for the bat, it started with 2 different primitives, which is a lot fewer than the palm tree, which was each of the leaves is its own object, so is like the stems of the leaves and the trunk. So it can be very complicated, I guess. And I wanted to point out with this, I made a kind of stupid mistake as I was creating the character. On the wings, I have these line details because, you know, bat wings, they'll have, since it's just a webbed hand, it'll have the finger bones in it. And so I wanted to add those onto it for like, not authenticity, but like to make it more accurate. And it wasn't until after I finished that I realized that they are the wrong direction. So I ended up pretty much kind of undoing that part of it and ended up with the smooth wings again, because it didn't really make sense the way I had created the model to do it the other way. So, and I mean, it wasn't the biggest deal. It was just kind of an unfortunate time loss, I guess. So once I was done 3D modeling all of the objects, I went on to the storyboard so that I knew what my animation would be. So the way storyboards work, if you're not like, you don't know, I guess, what they're looking to do is take into account all of the movements that will be present in the animation. So every time there's like a significant movement, I'll make another square to illustrate that. And so pretty much what my storyboard is animating is the bat walks up to the palm tree, shakes it, and the fruit falls out of the tree. The bat then bends over, picks up the fruits, and like puts them in their pocket, I guess. It's something you can do in the game where you can put it in your pocket and it kind of just like, the fruit will be there and your arms will move towards your side and then it'll kind of disappear. So that's kind of what that is. And then I was going to have them sit in front of the tree and then eat the fruit. And the reason I came up with like this as a kind of story is because I wanted it to be complicated enough to be compelling, but I wanted it to be simple enough to be doable. And since I have had a little experience with animation in Maya, I thought this would be doable. And that wasn't the most accurate idea. It's much more complicated than I thought it was. All of the animation I've done in the past was based on moving an object in space and not in moving a character's like joints, which is a very different process than I thought it was. So that was a very major like learning experience that I had to like deal with, and was a lot of trial and error. But we'll get to that, I guess, more once I get into the animation slide. Oh dear, I pressed the wrong button. What did I do? Okay, there we go. So animation. The way the animation process works is you start by rigging a skeleton for the model. And so the skeleton is the little like blue lines and circles within the model. And so what you do is, since my character is weirdly proportioned, I had to make the skeleton myself. There is a kind of template one they have in the software, but I couldn't get it to match up with my character, so I had to kind of make my own, which wasn't that difficult. You just place joints where you want them and then connect them together. And then once you have the skeleton like made the way you want it, you can then bind it to the model. But once you bind a object to a skeleton, you can no longer change that model, which was really difficult, because I would start animating it and then realize that I kind of wanted to change how the model was structured, because I'd move an arm and then there would be weird warping. And so I wanted to fix that, but then I'd have to redo the animation. So, you know, I got through all that and it was fine. But I also, in doing this, I was researching a lot of like how you needed to do this. And I knew what the skeletons were and how they kind of worked. But I found that there is something called IK handles, which if the rig is like a skeleton, like literally a skeleton, IK handles are like strings that you can put on the bones of the skeleton to turn it into a marionette, so that it's much easier to move it naturally. So, you know, I put together the IK handles, and then it was much easier to move the body, because, and the reason I have this picture here is because it's very difficult to kind of know if you've moved the model correctly, I guess. Because if you look at it, the straight on part, it looks like the character's legs are straight. They're normal. They're, you know, put together. But if you look at it from the side view, they're actually kind of wonky. So it's you have to pretty much have multiple views of the character open in order to make sure nothing looks weird, I guess. And, you know, once you've got all of that, you know, understood, there's a timeline feature on the bottom of Maya where, you know, you can set keyframes, which records how the skeleton is positioned. And then once it's recorded, you can change it and then change the like time and then record another one.
Alex,
And-
can I,
Yes?
excuse me, can I ask you to wrap it up in the next
Oh, so
minute?
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I tend to ramble sometimes. So in any case, I lost my train of thought there. So once it's modeled and you kind of get all the keyframes figured out, then, you know, the animation is kind of completed, but you have to render it then and export the rendered animation into a, you know, external file, which I ended up running into some problems with. So the render process was a lot of trial and error because as you can see, it's the same picture. I've got the same picture here, but the lighting is different. And I had to figure out the correct lighting and figure out the correct settings for the textures and the renderer to make it so that it actually showed what I wanted it to look like. And then once I exported the renders, I realized that the way they look in the program is not the same as how they look after they've been exported into a separate file. So these are the same exact settings. Everything is the same. The top one is the view from inside the Maya software, and the bottom is what it actually looks like when it's saved to an external file. So I was having a lot of issues with it being too dark. Oh, and I also had issues with it saving to unusable file formats because I guess there's a setting. I don't understand why it's there, but there's a setting that if you have it set, it doesn't render, like save to a usable JPEG format, a readable one. So I don't know why. I just know it didn't work, and then I fixed it by renaming stuff.
Alex, just one more
Yes.
minute now.
Yep. So this is now the final product. Since it was very complicated, I didn't actually get to mention this. Since it was I found it was a bit too complicated for my original. I ended up just doing a walk cycle for my character as opposed to the walking and then sitting down and eating. So this is the final animation. It's fairly short. So it's just a cute little animation with the bat moving. So, and then that's what my project was.
Okay, thank you, Alex. It
Yep.
sounds awfully complicated, and it sounds like you had a lot of challenges along the way, and you know that often happens. I mean, I gotta admit it. I mean, a lot of students, they have a great idea at the beginning of the semester. They work like crazy all through the semester, and they get to the end and they think, well, that isn't exactly what I intended to have at the end. So, you know, that happens. So that's very part of the course. So, you know, the question that we always ask is, are you satisfied, or not so much are you satisfied, but yeah, are you satisfied? But do you feel that you learned a lot over the course of the project that you didn't know at the beginning, and now you have a lot of usable information going forward?
Yes. Although it isn't what I would have wanted it to be, I do feel like I have a much better grasp on how to animate a character than I did. I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I ended up doing, and I had to, I watched a lot of tutorial videos to figure it out. So I feel like I did learn a lot from this.
Great. Well, that's all we can ask. So Meg, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So Alex, I really enjoyed that. I really appreciate the fact that you pointed out your mistakes. I'm a firm believer, actually, that that's where all the learning happens. It's hard in the moment to not be like, oh, you know, I wish that that hadn't happened. But I think I think we fail forward, and clearly that's what you did throughout this presentation. Or throughout this project, not the presentation. The presentation was great. But my question is, what recommendations would you make for students that are working on a similar creative project?
One thing I would say is it is better to look something up that you're not entirely sure of than to kind of mess around with what you think it is and then later on look it up, because you just save so much time that way. I really wish there were a lot of times where, you know, I finally looked it up and I was like, oh, huh, I wasted my time.
So ask for directions is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed that, and I hope that I'm not sure if you're graduating this term or not, but I hope if you continue this project that you will share what the next iteration is, because I think you've got a great future in front of you. Really nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alex. And now let's turn it over to Jennifer.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. The interpreter is going to change her view. Can you see the screen okay?
Yep.
Looks great.
Good. So my project is about deaf travel agencies or deaf-owned travel agencies. I want to encourage the deaf and hard of hearing communities to work with deaf travel agents. So again, the mission of the project is to encourage more deaf and hard of hearing people to work with deaf travel agents who have experience, understand access, and deaf tour guides. You know, they know what tips travelers need to make things accessible. And this is the process I went through. First, I did research. I found out what deaf travel agencies are out there, how much awareness there is about working with someone, a deaf travel agent, what kinds of help people needed. I developed a survey with questions to get different attitudes and opinions regarding these topics and people's awareness. And I got a lot of results. I was happy to see how many respondents there were. That was good to know. And that data helped me know what I need to do for my project. And for the community too. So during my research, I noticed that there aren't enough deaf travel agencies, and there's not much awareness about where to find one. So I was sad that there are a lot of missed opportunities out there because the travelers and the agents don't find each other. You know, deaf people want to experience travel too, of course. So the results of my survey. Most people had never worked with a deaf travel agent. These are deaf people and hearing people that answered this. They usually do their travel research on their own. And, you know, I feel bad about that because using a travel agent can save money and save time and save stress. They had varied experiences with communication. Some of them said they didn't have much communication breakdown. Others said communication didn't work when they traveled. So there was a wide range of experiences, and it was very interesting. Lots of people wished there were more deaf travel agents. And there's so many reasons to travel. Most people said they wanted to see new things, experience new things. Some said they wanted to visit family in different places. Some people said they were interested in different food and culture, wanted to see new countries. So this is advice for any travel agent in general, deaf owned or otherwise, regarding working with deaf clients. So this is what a lot of the respondents said in the survey. The first one is the travel agent needs to be flexible when working with the client regarding how they want to do, what they want to do, and how to guide them. We want to see more marketing and advertising because there's really nothing out there that aimed at deaf-friendly travel. Nothing about the agencies. We need more promotion. Spread awareness was the third one. You know, deaf families, deaf individuals want to travel. Share the information with each other. We need that network. People who work with deaf clients should have an awareness of ASL. They should be able to communicate, you know, just like they can communicate with hearing clients. And if it's possible to learn different sign languages, like the Mexican Sign Language, the Russian Sign Language, just a working awareness of these different sign languages. And lastly, have fun and share your knowledge with the people out there. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
Meg, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go first. So thanks, Jennifer. I thought that was really interesting. I've got a lot of questions, but I'm going to limit myself to just one question, I think. So I'm curious. I wonder if in your survey, you asked participants why they maybe choose to use a travel agent or choose not to use a travel agent. So, you know, when I think about utilizing a travel agent, I feel like that's going to cost me more money. And maybe that's not an accurate perception. And so I'd be curious on your thoughts on that. And then I guess I do have two questions, because my other part of that question is to ask, you know, we're all so used to buying our plane tickets and making our plans wherever we are, just right on our phone. So I guess I wonder, of all the different search engines that you can use, Kayak, Expedia, Cheap Flights, you know, all the different ones, do they have built into those search engines or platforms, do they have anything in there that talks about accessibility? Is that needed? So two questions, and I'll let you answer those.
Okay, now I've already forgotten the first question, but wait, say the first question again. I'm sorry.
No, I wonder if you, through your survey, did you learn anything about why people choose to use or not use a travel agent? My own perception is that it probably costs more money, but maybe that's not accurate.
Yes, I did ask that because I was wondering that too. And they said when they do it, that it saves them time and research. They don't want to spend the time. They're focused on job and family. They want somebody else to do the research for them and line things up. And people who didn't use a travel agent said they weren't comfortable sharing information with another person. Those were the main answers. And now your second question, I forgot it again.
No problem. So my second question is, you know, we all like to, we've got these little tiny computers at our fingertips and our phones. And so we're just going to buy our plane tickets right off of our phone. Do all the search engines that are out there now, do any of them have, as part of their applications, information about accessibility that's usable for the deaf or hard of hearing, you know, community? And I don't mean, are there apps accessible? I mean, is there information in there about, you know, the pieces that a travel agent would provide? And if not, is that needed?
I think we need information about accessibility, and it's not there. Communication is so important, being able to talk, yeah. And maybe an app related to communication would be good. Did I answer your question right?
No, you did definitely. And I think that your main point is, you know, really someone that specializes in travel for deaf or hard of hearing is going to have that wealth of knowledge and that expertise and have all of that experience that they can pass along to other deaf or hard of hearing travelers. And I think that the search engines that exist probably don't have anything near that right now.
That's correct.
Okay, Stephen, you're up.
So Jennifer, I have a couple of questions about the process, about your research. Can you tell us how many respondents you had and how you found them?
Yeah, I had about 50 people, between 50 and 60 people responded, and I found them on Google Form. Say it again. I'm sorry, the interpreters, show pie. Yeah, show pie. You know, the chart on Google Form. And so they could respond to that and answer why or why not.
So in your paper, I'm jumping ahead to when you do your product paper, perhaps you could include that pie chart to show how your respondents broke down. For example, were they mostly male or female? Were they deaf or hearing? And age? I mean, were they all college students or were they older? So that sort of thing. You don't have to say that now, but I'd like to see that in your product paper. So yesterday we had a presentation that was sort of about accessibility. It was about accessibility to museums, right? So I guess it's related to travel, but it was specifically about accessibility for deaf people in museums. And we talked about the fact that Rochester has the largest per capita population of deaf and hard of hearing people. So I would think that there's a huge market there, right? So I would think that there must be travel agents in Monroe County, in the Rochester area, that are aware of that huge market and would therefore market to deaf people. Are you saying there are no travel agents that are aware of that market?
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, don't show enough. Are you saying there's none in Rochester?
I'm asking the question.
I know, I'm sorry. This is the interpreter repeating with my voice. They don't show enough, the agents that are there don't have enough knowledge and experience about working with deaf and hard of hearing people.
In general, but you know, the deaf community, my understanding, I'm not deaf, but my understanding of the deaf community is that things like that, people talk to each other, right? I mean, if I'm deaf and I find a travel agent that I like, then I'm going to tell another deaf person. So there is none of that that's happening in Rochester?
Apparently not,
Oh.
you know, from what I've seen.
Okay. Okay, so different question. How are you going to use this information in the future? Is this an area that you're going to be working in yourself?
I wouldn't mind it, but I'm not sure. Oh, I want to share it on social media, get people talking about it more. And, you know, the social media, everyone uses that. So I want to spread the word.
I know you're in the hospitality area, that's one of your concentrations. So I'm curious, you're graduating this semester, right?
Yes.
What's the next step for Jennifer Meyers?
You know, I will see where the wind blows. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I hope the wind blows in a very positive direction. So,
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I enjoyed it. And now we'll move to Tyler.
Hi, can you see me?
I can see you, yes, but I can't see your presentation yet.
Now?
Now I can.
All right.
I am so sorry. This is the interpreter. I was assigned very last minute. Can I have 1 minute to send a text message? Like, I have two things happening at the same time. Do you mind 1 minute break?
Yeah.
We'll hold for 1 minute, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm working alone in this assignment and they gave me a 1 minute break, period. They said this one might go a little bit late. That's fine, period. So I could text you. If there's any way you can assign a team for my 2:30 class, that would be wonderful, period. If not, I'll be fine. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I'm back.
Well,
Okay, good. I hope that was that you did what you needed to do. Okay, Tyler, it's all yours.
all right. So for my capstone, I made a card game. It is called Lemon Game. It's Lemon Game, the competitive lemon card game. And you might ask yourself, what is Lemon Game? So it is a simple, fun to play card game for 2 to 4 players. I did test it with more and couldn't get it quite functional, but 2 to 4 is a pretty solid range for a card game. It is the only card game about getting all the ingredients to make lemonade. I know, I checked. There are other lemonade themed card games, but they don't involve collecting ingredients. They're more about like selling lemonade, making money. And it's partially strategy, partially luck, and all about competition. So I have a 61 card deck. I have 15 of each of the base ingredients, which are lemon, sugar, and water. And then I have 5 of each of my negative cards, which are the mold, the fly, and the sun, which kind of hinder players on their attempts to get the perfect lemonade. So playing the game, a normal turn goes, you start by discarding if you have any mold, sun, or fly cards. So they each have a respective ingredient that they target. So mold targets lemon, sun targets water, and fly targets sugar. So if you have a fly and a sugar in your hand, you have to get rid of the sugar. If you don't have a sugar, you get rid of the fly. And then once you get to the main part of your turn, you get to choose an action, which is either drawing 3 cards, discarding 1 card, swapping 1 card with 5 cards that are laid out face up in the center, or swapping up to 3 cards face down with another player. So it's private on both ends. You choose up to 3 that you want to swap, and they choose up to 3 from their hand, and you swap, and then you see what you get. Everyone starts with 5 cards in hand. and it takes 9 cards to get the perfect lemonade. You need 3 lemon, 3 sugar, 3 water, and nothing else in hand. So it's a lot of fluctuation where you can't draw directly to 9. You have to draw over, you have to discard. Someone might swap with you and ruin what you're trying to do. And eventually someone ends up with the perfect 9 through strategy. So maybe it's having a fly in their hand because they have 4 sugar and they need 3. So the fly makes them get rid of a sugar, and then on their following turn, they get rid of the fly or something. Or on that turn, they get rid of the fly by discarding it as their action, and then maybe they've not. So the process that I went through, start to finish. Originally, when I pitched my idea of making a game to Stephen, to Dr. Aldersley, I didn't know what game I wanted to make. I just knew that I wanted to make a game for my project. I spent a couple nights just kind of thinking on what do I want to make? Do I want to go with one of my previous ideas? Because I had a few different game ideas written down. And I was still thinking on it, and I went to bed one night. I woke up around 3 in the morning, had my glasses off, and I was like, I should make a card game about lemonade, and I wrote it down. And I went back to it in the morning, and I hammered out what that would actually be. So past that, I had to start prototyping. I started by using a standard deck of cards and proxying it. So saying this card is this card is that, and just playing to see how it would feel. Once I decided it felt good and I wanted to keep iterating on it, I went and made a digital version of it in a program called Tabletop Simulator. Following that, I got a package of blank gloss playing cards from Amazon, and with a Sharpie, I doodled on them what I wanted the cards to be, what I wanted them to say. And through that prototyping process, I went through 5 different versions of the game with different rules and different player amounts, different functionality. I tried it with 6 players at one point, and it was a mess. 2 players is still doable with the current game, but it's much more fun in the 3 or 4 range. So for playtesting, I did over 30 playtests with various high school age teens, college students, and adults. And all 3 of the groups really liked the game. I got unanimously positive feedback, if not suggestions for different things I could try. It was honestly pretty surprising how quickly it came together during the playtest phase. From the start, from my version 1.0, it was competitive and close. You would finish and everyone else would be like, I was 1 turn away from having the perfect lemonade. And I was like, okay, that's got to be a fluke after the first playtest. And then it happened again and again and again. And it just kept happening. I went, oh, all right. I guess I made a game that pulls itself one way or the other, and everyone thinks they have it until they don't, which is good because it keeps people right on the edge of their seat. It keeps their interest in the game. And when they're that close to winning, they go, I want to play again, because they want to win. And that's exactly what you want from people when they're playing. So for the artwork for the game, I went through 2 different artists. I started talking to someone back home in Pennsylvania, and they said they were going to do the art for me, and they showed me some rough sketches, and then they dropped off the face of the earth. I tried to contact them over and over, got nothing from them, and I went, all right, it's maybe a month out. I need new artwork now. And actually my girlfriend here in Rochester is building a portfolio. She wants to become a tattoo artist, and she does a lot of really good hand-drawn work. And I went, hey, can I commission you to do artwork for my game? And she was more than willing, and she did a whole bunch of really great hand-drawn artwork for it. And then I took it all into Photoshop, laid it out with templates for cards, for the standard poker card, for the box. And I made some edits to the art just to crop it in, clean it up. I changed some coloring. all just in Photoshop. And then I sent it off. I put it on the Steam Workshop, which is an online thing where you can download and play it in Tabletop Simulator. And that has the final artwork. And then I also sent it off to a company called The Game Crafter, which specializes in small run printings of games, cardboard game, what have you. So from them, I got a fully printed copy of Lemon Game with rules card, all the cards in it. So here's what my original prototype on the blank cards looked like. So you can see I did a little doodle of a sun, but no art other than that, just words. Then here's my box that I did with the template that I pulled off the Game Crafter and that I did in Photoshop. So originally this lemon was colorized differently. It had green font and some like effects around it, but I trimmed it down. I wanted to go for a really simple look. I have the different player icons and the playtime, which 30 minutes is like the long time to play it. It normally falls closer towards like 15. But they told us in my different game design classes that you want to go on the higher end when you're estimating. And then here is what the final product looks like, laid out on the table. And here's the front of the box, so you can see it. And that's Lemon Game.
Nice.
Thank you.
Great job, Tyler. That was a lot of fun. And you know, the best ideas come to a lot of people in the middle of the night, or in my case, between the middle of the night and first thing in the morning when I wake up around about 4:30 or something like that. So I'm not surprised the idea came to you when you said it did. But now, so, you know, when you buy a game or you start to play a game and you read the rules and you don't think, you know, how much work went into making these rules so the game actually works. And, you know, you made it sound simple, but you must, I think you did talk about multiple iterations, but you know, you gotta be able to see every possibility, right? Because you're gonna, otherwise you're gonna come across things that, oh, it doesn't work now. I gotta go back to the drawing board. So how long did it take you to actually come up with the rules that you were confident would work and in fact did work?
It took the bulk of the semester, honestly.
Okay.
Like I started like right then and there. That following morning, I hammered out like the first version of the rules. And then from there, it was just writing down anything I thought of that could be a change, getting everyone's feedback saying, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Adding components to the game, taking away components. I ended up coming down to this like really trimmed, simplistic version just because it's what worked. It was keeping people engaged. And I went, oh, wow, I think this is it. So yeah, it took a while, took a lot of different iterations, and I'm pretty happy with where it's at now.
So you learned a lot of game psychology as you went through this project. That's probably one of the major outcomes. What did the Game Crafter, I think you said, what did they say? Did they give you any feedback about what they thought about the game, the finished product?
No, they're not that intimate with it. You just say like, here's my different components, please print this, and they give you a cost and they ship it to you. Okay.
So that presumably happened. That hasn't happened very long ago. So are you going to market this? I mean, what's the next step?
I'm actually hoping to. I'm going to go back, probably tweak the artwork just a little bit. There were some like lines that came out on the printing that I didn't realize were there, that sort of thing. Little borders on the edge of the card, which kind of frustrated me because I paid real close attention to they have templates on the Game Crafter saying, if your artwork's here, it won't get cut off. If it's here, it will, this and that. And I followed it to the T, and I still ended up with like little white lines on the edge of some of my cards, which was a little frustrating. But I'm actually hoping to, you can't go directly to a game publisher if you don't already have a name in the industry. They just won't talk to you. But there are people that kind of serve as like a middleman where they have a relation with publishers and you can go to them, and for a cut of your profit, they'll take it and pitch it for you. And then from there, it goes to a publisher if they want it. They manufacture it. You get pretty tiny cut of what the game actually makes, but it would be really nice just to like get my foot in the door. And once you have 1 or 2 good games out there, then they'll talk to you directly and you can see about being a name in the market yourself. And that's ultimately my goal.
So maybe you've got the next monopoly on your hands. So, yeah, we don't yet know, right?
I hope so.
Okay, great job. I really enjoyed that. Meg?
Thanks, Stephen. Tyler, I really enjoyed your presentation. I love the simplicity of the game. So I will say that, you know, when I watch, I've got 3 teenagers. We're a big card game family. When we return to cards, when they return to cards, it's always the simple games that end up to be the most fun. You know, we all know Uno here. What a simple idea for a game, but what a hit. So I guess I'm wondering, you know, as you went through this process, how tempted were you to overcomplicate things, you know, to add in, you know, another card or add in a few other steps or something else? Because I've seen some students pitch games that honestly, it almost hurts my head. You know, it's like, if you have to think that hard about it, I don't know. I feel like it feels like homework. I don't want to do the game. I don't want to play the game, but this seems so simple. So how tempted were you to really push it out and overcomplicate things?
So I'll start by saying I'm the type of person that does play some of those games that would feel like homework to you. I have a game that weighs 25 pounds. It was like $100 some to get it, and it takes like 2 hours to set up.
Wow.
It's crazy. And
Wow.
it takes up the table for a couple days at a time once we start playing.
So there is an audience for that. You're right.
Yeah. But I was pretty tempted to like add in different mechanics, like add in more cards where you can directly like take that to your opponent, or like different ways that you could speed up getting to the right amount of cards. But anytime I tried to add something like that, it just didn't feel as good. It felt clunkier. And it is like advice that I've gotten from a couple different game design teachers. Like, whenever you think you have your final product, trim it down even more, because most successful things are normally the ones, like you said, that are simple, easy to understand, but still fun to play.
Great. And for a huge range. And I think what I really like too about your game is that it's, especially with the great, you know, really simplistic pictures, it's a huge age range that could play it and enjoy it and be competitive at it.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I didn't like have a good opportunity to test it with like younger children. But I am wondering like if they would go for it, because it's not that hard to understand. And like, I tested it with all the ranges over that, and everyone was like, yeah, I get it. It's fun. That sort of thing.
Great. Well, if you need, I have 10 nieces and nephews, all in the same neighborhood. So if you need a small posse of children to test it on, feel free. So my other question is this the first game you've made? Have you made other games?
So I have made other games in like group projects. But this is the first one that I tackled entirely by myself. I'd say it's like, I'm happiest about this, despite having made other games with like, I made an RPG with one group. That was like basically just a book that you could play off of. I made a couple different board games with groups, and then 1 or 2 card games, but they weren't like mine and mine alone. I didn't handle every step of the process with them.
Right. Well, this is fantastic, and I would ask, you know, I'm not sure if you applied for funding. I feel maybe you did. I can't remember. I'm sorry, but I would love it in your next iteration if you purchase 2 additional decks that SOIS would pay for. We'd love to put them in the SOIS student lounge so that students could play them, if you're comfortable with that.
I would love that. That's awesome. I could
Yeah.
do that now and have it by the end of finals week and drop them off if you wanted me to.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yes, absolutely. We would love it. And I'll probably ask you at some point, I've got the capstone description, but to maybe put together just a bio on yourself, but we can talk about that offline.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. And I hope that there's another launch somewhere for you. So best of luck.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Glad you enjoyed it.
So I was hoping, I guess Meg's just resolved that. I was hoping that we were actually going to get a deck for ourselves so that we can play too. So is one of the rules that you must drink lemonade while you're playing this? I mean, maybe you could add a rule right there. Don't be just lemonade.
I would like that. I do have, when you're deciding who goes first, it's whoever last drank lemonade. It might make it a little complicated.
That's cute. Very cute.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tyler. That was great. All right. Thank you to all 3 of you. Enjoyed your presentations. This, like I said, was the last session. You all did a great job. And assuming that most of you, if all of you, or 1 or 2 of you at least, are going to graduate, we wish you the very best once you leave RIT. But before you can do that, of course, you have to give us 2 papers, which I hope you will do in the next couple of weeks. And otherwise, best of luck in your future after you leave RIT.
Thanks a lot.
Fantastic job, everybody. We're so proud of you. This was a great group to end on. Definitely stay in touch with us and let us know the good stuff that you're doing, the good trouble that you're getting into, and stay safe. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.